Welcome everybody to my video presentation on who is the Antichrist, 2 Thessalonians 2:4. And Daniel 9:27 talks about the Antichrist making a covenant with the many for 1 week and this final 70th week of Daniel. But in the middle of the week, he'll put a stop to sacrifice and offering and set up the abomination. But an identifying mark of this Antichrist is in verse 26, where it says, the people of the prince who is to come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. Well, this happened in 70 AD. So the people that destroyed the city and the sanctuary were the Romans. So this has to be a Roman prince. So this is what we're saying. The Antichrist is a Roman. Now, in the Old Testament, we have a guy by the name of Nimrod, and he built the Tower of Babel, or at least he was part of it. And, he was called a mighty hunter. And in the Old Testament, we have kind of prophetic types or pictures of the Antichrist, and he was one of them. And so as we study him a little bit, and we can see the fulfillment of that in present day in order to, figure out who Antichrist is. Now, as we said, Nimrod built the Tower of Babel. And so, we have this parallel in the EU Parliament buildings. It looks like a Tower of Babel as well. And so if Nimrod built the Tower of Babel in the Old Testament, and he is a picture of the Antichrist, then who built the EU? And so we have to go to 1957 when the European Union began in, Rome, in Vatican City, where 5 nations joined up and started the European Economic Community. Now, going back to Nimrod again in Genesis 10:8-9, now Cush became the father of Nimrod. He became a mighty one on the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter. So, this is significant, a mighty hunter. And, we get in the rider of the white horse, he has a bow. So this is something. But here's what I want to look at. He was not only a mighty hunter, but a mighty one. And that word there is what we use, givarim. It means, like the giants were called the mighty ones. And so, what caused the giants were because the sons of God came down. And so we get this coming down idea, and before the flood and also afterwards. And so many believe that Nimrod was actually one of the giants. We also read in Genesis 10:10, and the beginning of that's Nimrod's kingdom, was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar. So here we see that Nimrod's kingdom was called Babel. And so like I said, the EU has the same kind of a building, by no accident. And therefore is this, I believe this is the kingdom of Antichrist. So we think the European Union is kind of like a fulfillment of Babel. And, just like, Nimrod built Tower of Babel, so we're seeing this rise of this new European Union. And it's kind of the revived Europe right in front of our eyes. And so we believe this is the kingdom of Antichrist. So here we have a picture of what the European Union has already put out of Europe, many tongues, one voice. And so in this new Europe, the EU, we have kind of a reverse of Babel. Instead of, division, we got all these coming together, one voice. They're going to have one government, one money, and one, one people. So we see this, is kind of a prefigure of the feet, the 10 toes in the feet of Daniel's image. But what's interesting about this is here we have these supposed to be 12 stars, 11. But these are all inverted pentagrams. And here is a indication that's a satanic symbol. So this is not as if this is some, a religious thing. This is definitely anti-Christian. Looking at Revelation 6:1 and 2, and the rider of the white horse, we see, and I saw the Lamb when he opened the seals. I heard a noise of thunder. One of the four beasts says, "Come and see." And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went conquering and to conquer. This come and see doesn't say come and you will see, but he says come and see what's already, not some future, but something which is historical. And this rider of the white horse, we think, maybe it's Christ, but we know it's kind of a deception, and it's a false Christ. And here he has a bow, just like Nimrod, and he had a crown. Well, Nimrod was the king of Babylon, but this crown here is a victory crown, and so this individual just had some kind of victory, whatever that would be. So here is this we think is just coming, the king of Babylon. So looking at the EU Parliament buildings from up above, we see something interesting. This Parliament building is shaped like a bow, and this looks like a crown. And so the rider of the white horse, he had a bow and he had a crown. And we think of Nimrod as well, a mighty hunter, and he was a king, the king of Babylon. So these, we're saying that there's prophetic prophecies of this, Antichrist in his kingdom. Now Jesus on the Olivet Discourse said to his disciples, "Take heed that no man deceives you. For many will come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and will deceive many." And so we equate this first sign Jesus mentioned with the opening of the white, the first seal, and the rider of the white horse. So take heed that no man deceives you, and many will come, not one, but many, and they'll be saying, I am Christ. So these are not saying, these aren't just secular leaders that we're talking about. This is the Antichrist, but he's claimed to be Christ. And we read in Genesis 3:4-5 that the serpent said to the woman, "You will surely not die, for God knows in the day you eat from that tree, your eyes will be open and you will be like God and knowing good and evil." And so, right early in the history of mankind, Satan was trying to introduce another way. God had already set the tree of life for man and woman to eat, and that they would live forever. And that was the way for eternal life. Now he introduces another way, and through deception, he deceives the woman and the man to eat of that tree. So this is what we should expect through the Antichrist. Now here we have something interesting. In the beginning of March of this year, 2021, the Pope visits Iraq, and so the reason given is to encourage the Christians and to set up kind of a peace deal between Muslims and Christians in Iraq, and so that is the reason they gave for it. But what's the real reason for Pope Francis to visit Iraq? I know that's what they say they're coming for, but in the prophetic picture, we think it's something else. Why Iraq? Now, this is why I think he's really coming to Iraq, is because, this is the birthplace of the Garden of Eden. This is where man began. And here he is taking the role of, the serpent. And I said, we'll see later that the serpent is a type of Antichrist. And so here he comes, to Iraq. And what's he offering up? Kind of a new, ecumenical religion. It's bring Muslims, Christians, and probably Jews eventually under, one tree. So here I just wanted to point out this parallel between what happened in the garden and what's happening today in Iraq, and see what you think. What did Satan want to do in the garden, the serpent? Well, get them to eat of that tree. And what's he bringing here? He's bringing this new kind of ecumenical Jews, Muslims, and Christians all under the faith of Abraham. But he's bringing them not under the faith of Abraham. That's a different tree. He's trying to bring them under his tree. He is this tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And if you eat of it, his apostasy. And if you eat of it, you will die. And so, hopefully, I think this is just the first stage. And next he's going to go to Israel, and this is going to be part of the covenant that he makes for 1 week. And we look at Hippolytus, church father, and he has 4 passages which identify Antichrist. And the first one is in Genesis, the serpent. And he says the serpent is Antichrist. And Genesis 3:1 says, now the serpent was wiser than all the other beasts of the field. And so here's the serpent. He's a beast. So he's not really, Satan is an angel, but the Antichrist is like the image of Satan. And so you got to see this distinction. And another example is the king of Assyria. Now, in Micah, it talks about the land of Assyria and the land of Nimrod as parallel. So the king of Assyria is like Nimrod. And in Isaiah, it talks about, when he performs his work on Mount Zion, the Lord, after he's done that, he will punish, the king of Assyria. So also the king of Babylon, he's another picture. And, the king of Babylon says, I will ascend to heaven. I will be like the Most High. I will set my throne above the stars of God. And yet, we see that instead he'll be cast down to hell itself. So here's another one. And finally, the king of Tyre in Ezekiel. This king of Tyre says, I am God, I sit in the seat of God, declaring himself to be God. So here's 4 examples of Antichrist in the Old Testament. Now there's an interesting kind of sign in 2013. On the very day that Pope Benedict resigned, there was a lightning struck the pinnacle of St. Peter's twice. And Jesus said in Luke 10:18, I watched Satan from heaven fall from heaven like a flash of lightning. And I don't believe that Satan fell then in 2013 or anything, but it is a sign of what's to happen in Revelation 12 when he's cast out. And where does this lightning fall? Onto St. Peter's, on the day that the Pope resigned. So, is this not an indication, when Satan actually enters the Antichrist? We know from 2 Thessalonians 2:4 and following that he'll start to show all kinds of lying wonders and power. But up to that point, nobody really knows him. But then he starts showing power. So this is something significant. Now here we have Pope Francis seated in Rome, and something interesting though about the popes is, they didn't begin where they are right now. When they started, he was just the Bishop of Rome. And little by little, he became an apostle, then the chief apostle, Peter, then the vicar of Christ, is the Holy Spirit. Then he became equal with Christ. And, then he was able to forgive sins like God. He became a co-mediator with Mary. She became like a goddess. So little by little, he's exalted himself above every so-called God or object of worship. So that he takes his seat in the temple of God, showing himself to be God. Here he is seated between these two kind of cherubim. And, in the Old Testament, it says God is seated between the cherubim. And here he is in the seat of God. Now, the Apostle Paul in 2 Thessalonians 2, 3, and 4 says, "Let no man deceive you by any means." And this is similar to what Jesus says, "Let no man deceive you" in Matthew 24, 5. "For that day shall not come except the falling away comes first, and the man of sin is revealed, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he, as God, sits in the temple of God, showing himself to be God." We need to see somebody, we're looking for some secular leader to do this, but, has not the Pope, they not been doing that for 1,500 years? Especially like when you really look at this word for temple of God, many believe this is a reference to the church, not some Jewish physical temple. Here we have this passage in the Greek. Paul says, "The one opposing and exalting himself above every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, showing himself to be God." And this word naos, the word for temple, is actually not the word for the physical temple. The word for physical temple is Aaron. And that is what Paul would use if he was talking about the Jewish temple. But here, naos is the word Jesus used when in John 2:19 he said, "Destroy this temple, this naos, and in 3 days I'll raise it up again." And he was talking about the temple of his body. So this is really the church that Paul is talking about. This guy will take his seat in the church, showing himself that he's God. And here's another interesting point. This word kathetsa is to sit in like a cathedral. And it's talking about permanent sitting. It's an aorist. And this isn't just a one time. This is permanently seated in the temple, in the church of God. Well, that's what the popes have been doing for 1,500 years. And then there's these three participles here. Now, when you use a participle, what's important is not the tense, but not the time of the action, but the kind of action. And the kind of action in these present participles is continuous action. So what we're looking at is he continually is exalting himself. And like I said, when he started, he was just, a bishop of Rome back here, 400 or whatever. But little by little, he's exalted himself to the point where he's equal with God. And, at the end, claiming to be God. And when Satan enters into him, then he will show power and fool the whole world. So here he is, seated in the temple of God, showing himself to be God. He's been there for 1,500 years. You say, "Oh, no, this can't be." Well, Spurgeon said, if he isn't the Antichrist, then, it's too bad that he meets all the requirements. And that's it. Who else could fits all those requirements? And so, we have to come to the conclusion that he's the man of sin. Now here we see the Pope addressing the U.S. Senate in 2015. The Caesars, they used to come and address the Roman Senate. And the Caesars were like the king of Babylon. Well, he's taken the place of the Caesars. The dragon gives him his seat and his power. And so here he is, like the king of Babylon, he's addressing the American Senate. So yeah, I used to kind of get confused here because this is Biden, who is now the president. And America, we think of America as Babylon, physical Babylon. And, so he'd be the king of Babylon. But no, he's not. This is the king of Babylon. And he thinks himself as the king of kings. This is Nimrod. And, in the end, when Satan is cast out, he's going to enter whoever is the Pope, if it's this guy or whatever, and he'll show great signs and lying wonders to deceive, even the elect. So, we need to be on the watch. Now here he is just this year with, with Biden, who's just become the president, and all smiles. Maybe this is the recent victory that they've won. Because they really weren't that happy with Trump, but now Biden he's a Roman Catholic, a little more. The Democrats are more following more what the Pope and Europe would like. So, this I think is this new kind of world order, this new union between these two beasts, the beast from the sea and the beast from the earth. We'll look at that. Now here's these two beasts in Revelation. I'm not going to go a whole bunch of detail on this, but just quickly, the beast from the sea, remember, in Daniel's image, there's 2 legs of iron. Well, this first one was the dragon and had 10 heads and 10 horns. Well, that's just imperial Rome. And but the second beast, this is papal Rome, became the Holy Roman Empire. And, the little horn is the head of that. And so that's the other leg. And about 1804 or 1805, the Holy Roman Empire was defeated and abolished by Napoleon. And so, and at that same time, Napoleon kicked out Pope Pius VI from Rome, and the Pope died in exile. So here we had what was called the deadly wound. And that happened in 1798. That's when he was kicked out. And so, these two beasts here, they're both Rome, so, they're just the 6th head. And so, but the 6th head had a deadly wound, but it recovers. And in 1814, Napoleon abdicated, and guess what? Pope Pius VII comes back. And so we have a recovering of the deadly wound. So the popes carry on. So it's kind of a victory for them. But in between here, right in 1798, America began in 1776, but it wasn't until 1798 that it was recognized by France, the leading country of that time, as a nation. And so here, America is the beast from the earth. It rises up. It's the 7th. And that's why the recovered beast, the 6th recovered, becomes the 8th. And that's exactly what happened. So these two are going to merge at the end in the feet of Daniel, the iron and the clay. So we'll look at that at another time, maybe. So here we have the woman riding the beast. This is Revelation 17, just before the woman is judged. And, John sees this, the woman riding the scarlet beast. So the scarlet beast is just, the 8th, the revived Roman Empire, and the woman is the beast from the earth, and we believe that's America. So here they are, and this is kind of like the new order, which we have America and Europe kind of joined together. Now, people don't maybe believe that, but just look what's happening like in the Ukraine, where America comes and helps NATO, and they kind of push Russia back. Well, they're going to be doing that with China, and so this is Biden's working more with Europe than Trump would. So I think this is the new confederacy. So here we have right at the end this final, new world order, and particularly the feet of it. That's the iron and the clay. And I think that's the woman riding the beast. And so this whole thing though is is kind of like the image of the Antichrist, because this thing was 60 cubits tall. It was 6 cubits wide, and they used 6 different musical instruments to call people to worship. And so, it was all of gold. Nebuchadnezzar, who is the king of Babylon, he made it of himself. And whoever didn't worship it didn't worship him, and they were put to death. So this is just prophetic as well of, what's going to be in the last 3.5 years. But, God, the way out is very simple. Christ, if you know Christ, then, you can't take the mark. John 1:12 says, but as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become the children of God. And that's what, we have to do. When we receive Christ, he comes in, our sins are forgiven, we have a right standing with God. And whether we live or die, it doesn't matter then. So I hope you have done that, and I hope you, watch some other videos, read my book on that. And God bless, and keep looking up.